Hi, my name is Vicky and I'm a speech and language therapist, and today we're going to have a little chat about readiness for online learning, and we're going to suggest some tips and tricks that mean that you can make some really small changes but potentially have a really big impact. And today with me I have Mikaela, who is an occupational therapist, and she will be talking to us about occupational therapy related tips like posture, movement breaks, and other things that we can do to make online learning a bit easier. What do you think about, since we've talked about all the preparation, so this is the preparation stage before you even do any learning to get ready for that learning. But oftentimes, I think, in the middle of the workday, for example, we often try to take breaks. And what sorts of things might you recommend for a child who has been sitting in a chair all day or has sat in the chair past their point of tolerance and needs a break, needs a snack? How often should we look out for these things, and what sorts of things could families do to help prepare for that kind of contingency when the child's beginning to get really fidgety or, fussy?
Yeah, I think it's really important to be smart about how we're scheduling the child's day. So, for example, a lot of the schools that I can think of that I support and work with, they are scheduling their core subjects earlier in the day because they know that's when the child is better focused. Yep. So, they've woken up from a really good night's sleep, they've had their breakfast, they've got prepared, they've got dressed, and they're sitting down and they're still fresh. It's really good to do those core subjects and those more heavy academic subjects earlier in the day. And then, after lunch, that's when you might do sort of more of your exploratory subjects like the music and the arts and crafts and things like that. So I think thinking about that is going to be your first thing. And then also building in really smart breaks in terms of, we know as an adult that 20 to 30 minutes is our max threshold in terms of being able to focus on an activity. And if we're expecting a child to do the same and focus on an activity of 30 minutes without a break, that's a really big expectation. So I think it's really important to start to think about breaking those tasks down and putting little movement breaks in place. As an adult, our movement break is probably getting up and getting another cup of tea or coffee. For a child, they're better off sort of thinking about having a movement break that you might set up with a timer so that, after 15 minutes, they might get up and do 10 star jumps. And then also too, that lunchtime, use that lunchtime break to go outside into the back garden, go for a walk around the block, have lunch, have some movement, get ready for the rest of the day. Really think about that throughout the day. And movement breaks can be as simple as getting up, doing a couple of star jumps, a couple of push-ups. Also too, snacks are really good sort of sensory breaks as well. Having lots of crunchy snacks, having some big flavors and things like that, they're really good to really sort of reset that sensory system, get that body ready again. So have a think about how you can schedule them into the day and even put them on a little routine for the day. So you might have that you have English, and then you have, you're going to do something off YouTube, or you're going to have a dance break or something like that. Then you're going to do your maths, and then you're going to have your lunch, and we're going to go for a walk around the block, or you're going to go outside and play on the swings and things like that. So movement breaks can be big or small, and that's what suits what you've got at home and also the child.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what I've seen in therapy sessions as well. We are generally quite attuned to children and how they're presenting in that moment, and having a movement break just in the middle and saying things like, okay, why don't we stand up and do a stretch? Why don't we stand up and take a few deep breaths? Why don't we walk around the kitchen table before we sit back down again? Or have a drink of water? And I think that that's always really, really helpful. And they come back and they are just that little bit fresher, and they can last for, another 10 minutes, another 15 minutes. And that can make all the difference, I think, to a successful session versus an unsuccessful one where the child feels really frustrated and tired. So yeah, I think those are some really great tips. And what are your thoughts? Because I think some families will ask about this. What are your thoughts around fidgets for children to have while they are sitting at the table? What sorts of things are appropriate for that?
Yeah, I think it's really appropriate for, if a child is sitting and listening, for them to have something to fiddle with in their hand. And I think if we think about a fidget being an item that, you and I as an adult can sort of sit there and play with in our hand without distracting us, that's going to be something that we can, also think about supporting our child with. You or I might think about, getting our pen, and we might be clicking our pen, or we might be taking the lid off our pen, putting it back on, or even like a little clip that I tend to have on my desk. So it's something like really simple, really practical, but it shouldn't take away from the attending to the task. So we don't want it to be something like putty where they're sort of stretching with it and playing with it, because that's quite an exciting activity, more exciting than, what's on the screen. A good little sort of tip that I've used is even getting a piece of string, threading some different beads on it, and there you are. You've got a little fidget or a little sort of tactile thing that they can play with. Also, to nuts and bolts. If you get a nut and a bolt and get, a child can screw that on, screw that off. That's something that's really simple, can repetitively do it, can sort of mindlessly do it as well. And that's a really simple one to use as well.
Yeah, I think I do that with refillable ballpoint pens. I keep twisting them open and twisting them closed when I'm talking to someone, and it's a bit of a mindless activity that keeps your hands occupied. Well, that's a really great thought, because I think we often forget that once we get the children into the session, there is also the task of keeping them in. And very often, a lot of students, require that sort of external input to check themselves and check if they're actually in that ready to learn zone, or if they're not, and they really need something else in order to help them get back in there, so that the whole session is not frustrating for them or for the teacher or for the adult.